Today in the Fresh Brew Run Club, why bike lanes are good for runners too. Welcome back to the Fresh Brew Run Club. So today's video, I'm talking bike lanes. Now, before you say, hey, what on earth is going on? I thought this was the Fresh Brew Run Club. Why are we talking about bikes? I have a theory, I have an assertion that bike lanes are good for not only people who ride bikes, but also for runners like you and me, for pedestrians, for people that are walking their dogs, for people that are pushing strollers, and yes, even drivers of vehicles. Bike lanes are a net good for everyone. And I have three reasons why specifically bike lanes are good for me as a runner. Now, a little bit of context. I live in the Detroit area, the Motor City, a very car-focused region. And there's a road that starts downtown and goes through the suburbs. It's called Woodward Avenue. And in one of the cities that Woodward Avenue runs through, they're adding a bike lane. This is Ferndale, Michigan. It's an 8-lane road, 4 lanes in each direction. They're taking away a lane on each side and adding a protected bike lane. There's all kinds of controversy. People are for it. People are against it. There's these beautifully designed lawn signs protesting the bike lanes all over the place. Like, it's a very hot topic. I am personally very in favor of this, not because I ride my bike a ton, but really from the perspective of a runner. So I have three reasons why bike lanes are actually good for runners. And the first is probably the most obvious one, and that is it takes bikes off of the sidewalk. Now, technically in many cities, you're not supposed to ride your bike on the sidewalk. You're supposed to ride in the road. However, I'm sympathetic to bike riders who are on the sidewalk because I know how dangerous and nerve-wracking it can be actually riding a bike in the road. But I don't love it when I see bikes on the sidewalk. I don't always know when they're coming up. I have to like swerve around and go into the grass or go into the road. It's just not a good situation. So if there is a bike lane, it gives the drivers their own space, which is the road. It gives the cyclists their own space, which is the bike lane. And then it gives me my own space, which is the sidewalk. It just keeps everybody separate, everybody happy, and everybody much safer. The second reason, speaking of safety, is bike lanes act as a traffic calming measure, meaning cars tend to go a little bit slower in areas with a bike lane, right? If you go from 8 lanes to 6 lanes, traffic's going to slow down a little bit. If you go from 2 lanes in each direction to 1 lane in each direction, that is also going to slow things down. And it's very important for everyone, including runners, to have safer streets, vehicles driving slower, vehicles driving more cautiously. Now, don't take my word for it. AAA's Foundation for Traffic Safety put together a study called Impact Speed and a Pedestrian's Risk of Severe Injury or Death. And in the study, it said the average risk of death for a pedestrian reaches 10% at an impact speed of 23 miles an hour, 25% at 32 miles per hour, 50% at 42 miles per hour, 75% at 50 miles per hour, and 90% at 58 miles per hour. So if we can slow drivers down just a little bit, where people like myself like to run, that's a good thing. We should be looking for ways to calm traffic down, and bike lanes are one of those ways. And the third reason I think bike lanes are good for runners is purely anecdotal and just observations I have running on streets with bike lanes versus streets that don't have bike lanes. Whether they know it or whether it's subconscious, I think drivers are a little more cautious and a little more safe when there is a bike lane. And my theory is when people see that bike infrastructure, so whether it's a protected bike lane, it's those plastic barriers, it's the green paint on intersections to let drivers know that a bike might be crossing the intersection, or even just signs that have like bikes on them. I think when drivers see that kind of infrastructure, they think, okay, there might be something else out here I need to pay attention to besides other cars. The prime example of drivers being completely oblivious to pedestrians is when a car is turning right and the driver is stopped at like a stop sign or an intersection, and they're looking to their left for oncoming traffic, but they're not looking to see if anybody's crossing the crosswalk. I have to be very careful in that situation because they'll just drive right through it. However, if there's like a bike lane or some barriers or things, I think people are going to be a little bit more aware of the fact that like, hey, someone might be trying to cross at this intersection and I need to pay more attention to things that aren't cars. So overall, while I don't recommend runners actually run in the bike lanes, although sometimes I do it just to kind of get around people, or if like a sidewalk is crowded or someone's walking their dog, I'll just kind of give them the courtesy of just jumping down in the bike lane and then jumping back up. Although I don't recommend running in the bike lanes, I think they can benefit runners and all pedestrians in a very impactful way. And it even benefits vehicles in the sense that, like, yes, you might be going a little bit slower and get to your destination, 35 seconds slower, but it's safer. It lessens the chance of a bad accident where someone gets seriously injured or even worse. So I think bike lanes are good for anyone using the roads. The roads should be for everyone. They shouldn't just be for cars. And as a runner, that's really important to me because every single day I see dangerous situations where I have to be on my guard. And if a bike lane can offer just a little more safety, a little more protection, a little bit of a barrier, separate cars from bikes from people, then I'm all for it. So I'm a big advocate for bike lanes. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you think bike lanes make streets safer? Are you just annoyed by them and want to ban them forever? Let me know in the comments below. But that is today's video. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you soon.